Happy Memorial Day for those of you in the US, and happy Monday for everyone else. Today, I wanted to hop on and I wanted to tell you my story of how I took my career from $40,000 to 200,000. And I did it in the 15 years that I was in the corporate world. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you that story because a lot of you, if you are a senior professional, someone wants to join me in this live, let me bring him in. If you are a senior individual contributor or at the director level, this is going to be more relevant to you. However, there's a lot of lessons here for you, even if you are at the VP level and above. Okay, so let me share the different stages that I went through because this is extremely important. A lot of you, when you come to me, you share with me that you want to advance your career. And we have different definitions when it comes to making a change in our career. Some people don't consider moving up a career transition. I actually do believe that it is a career transition because in order for you to move up, you need to make a change. And if you are going through a career transition, you are also wanting to advance your career. No one wants to, ambitious professionals that I work with, they don't want to just hop from one company to another without advancing their career. And I want to take a minute and define what advancing your career means. It could mean more money, but it could also mean doing work that helps you grow and challenges you. Because just, making more money while you're just doing the same old thing can actually feel exhausting and boring, especially if you are a high achiever. So what I'm going to be talking about with through my story of going from $40,000 to $200,000 are lessons that I've personally learned that helped me grow my own career. Now, just to give you a little bit of background, in case you are new to my profile and channel, I do these lives almost every day, Monday to Friday. Sometimes I do them on Sunday if I'm, feeling like it. And I have been coaching people for the past 6 years to help them advance their career and navigate career transitions. Okay, I'm getting some weird comments through my YouTube channel. This is why I'm laughing. All right, so let's get started. Stage 1. So when I started my career, I was making $40,000 and I was so grateful. At the time, I just graduated right out of school. I miraculously got into a Big Five organization. The interview process on its own was 4 months. And when I got the offer, I was so grateful. And I genuinely believed that if I worked hard enough, if I gave the company everything I had, they would take care of me. That's the contract that I thought I was signing. So I gave them everything. I remember that I was working on this very large program. It was based in Ottawa. And it was for a financial holding company that was obviously making millions and millions of dollars. And the purpose of the program was to integrate all of their legacy systems and to modernize them into a broker-dealer integrated system. So the months leading up to the release, I was working so late, so consistently, like every day. I was working till 10 p.m. at night. I was working weekends. It was very exhausting. It got to the point where my boyfriend at the time was coming and dropping off food because we were working so late that the cafeteria was closed and everything around us was a drive away. I couldn't just walk, to grab food. So my boyfriend at the time would come to me almost every day around, 6, 7 p.m., drop off food. That's how sad it was. And in fact, there was one day I stayed so late. I was at work 9 a.m. and I went home 9 a.m. the next morning. So I actually spent the night at work. I didn't sleep. And I remember coming home, and my boyfriend at the time said, oh my God, like, where have you been? I was so close to calling the cops because I didn't see you. He thought something happened to me, except I was just in the office working like crazy. That summer was so intense that I actually ended up developing back pain. And it was so terrible because I was like sitting on my computer like for long periods, and I was in my late 20s. So it's not like I was, older for anyone to make an excuse about how I hurt my back. I was super young and I was working long hours. I developed like back pain, and I was in physiotherapy for almost a year trying to recover from what happened to me. So anyway, that loyalty didn't get me rewarded the way that I thought it did. I did end up getting promoted. I got a very modest salary increase. It was honestly ridiculous because the Big Five company that I was working for was billing over $160 an hour, and I was only making like maybe $50,000 at most. It was quite ridiculous. So that was the loyalty stage. I call this the loyalty stage. Some people, they are in that stage when they're starting their career, but a lot of my clients, even at the director level, are in the loyalty stage where they feel that they have to give everything to the company that they're working at. And they think that they're going to end up getting rewarded in return. They don't want to leave because they believe that if they are loyal, they're going to reap the benefits. And here's the thing. If you've led transformations that no one else wanted to touch, if you've delivered results the level above you takes credit for, and you keep telling yourself that one more year, one more project, one more good performance review, and the promotion will come, it won't. And how I learned that was when my mom got diagnosed with cancer. I will say about a year after that whole program that I was in, where I was staying late and, making sure that we launched successfully, gave my all to the company, was loyal, right? My mom got diagnosed with cancer a year later. And I thought because of my loyalty, the organization would be understanding and not put me on a project that required travel. It was a very large global company. There were many options here. There were a lot of projects that were local, but no, what did the partner say to me when I asked him to, accommodate me? He basically said to me that we're not going to be able to accommodate you in the long run. And if you want to stop traveling for more than a month, then you're going to need to apply to disability. You're going to need to take time off and you need to apply for disability. That was a huge slap on the face for me, especially after they literally bent the rules and expected me to work weekends, long hours, pull all-nighters. Yet when I asked for something so reasonable, because I had a personal circumstance, I was being told that I should just get on disability. When I wasn't the one who was sick, it was actually my mom who was going through cancer. And I wanted to just be her caregiver. I didn't want to travel. So that is when I learned my lesson, and I decided that loyalty doesn't help you advance your career. So I ended up at another organization. It was a product organization, and they were actually a vendor. This was where I was in the prove yourself stage. In the prove yourself stage, which I kind of was at Deloitte, but I was more into the loyalty stage. I decided that there's no such thing as loyalty, but I still believed that if I worked hard and proved myself, I would advance my career. So here's the thing. When I left the consulting company and went into this product company, my salary jumped by $10,000. I want you to remember this because a lot of people believe that if they stay in the company and keep climbing up the ladder, their salary is going to increase. Here's the thing. When I got promoted within that consulting company, my salary only increased by $5,000, even though I relocated to a much more expensive city. I relocated from Ottawa to Toronto, and basically the how do I say this? Toronto has a higher cost of living, okay? We're talking about rent that's like double the rent in Ottawa. So they simply adjusted my salary for standard of living versus performance. And the salary adjustment was barely cutting it. 5,000 is nothing if you think about it. Divide 5,000 over a 12-month period, it's not a lot of money. Anyway, after I jumped from the consulting company to the product company, I noticed that my salary increased by $10,000. That's a significant amount. It's something that I just couldn't get if I stayed in the same organization. And frankly, after I got that comment about going on disability, I just didn't want to be loyal anymore. I learned my lesson. Loyalty is just not a thing in the corporate world. You have to be loyal to yourself, not loyal to the organization. So after I left and I jumped to the product company, I was still in the prove yourself stage. And in the prove yourself stage, the belief that I had, and I see a lot of my clients have, is as long as you work hard, as long as you do great work, you are going to be recognized and you're going to advance in your career and you're going to be well compensated. Except what happened was my boss was such a micromanager, and he threatened me. He threatened that if I did not basically relocate to another, part of town, that he would fire me. And why did he want me to relocate? When I got hired, I was hired on the basis that I was in Toronto. But it turns out that the entire development team was in Aurora. The manager who hired me at the time said to me that it wasn't an issue. But of course, changes happen at organizations, bosses leave, bosses move around. That boss ended up getting promoted. And who did I end up with? My worst nightmare. A boss who was based in Texas. And I'm just going to say that he was not the nicest person. So I found out that he actually posted my job without telling me. I went on LinkedIn and I literally saw a job posting that was identical to the work that I was doing. And it was based in Toronto, which I found hilarious, especially when he wanted me to relocate to Aurora, which is like a suburb. So I confronted him and he said, "Oh, yeah, that wasn't supposed to go out yet. I was supposed to talk to you. But yeah, we kind of figured you weren't going to accept the relocation. So we already started looking for a replacement." And I just thought that that was insane at many levels and disrespectful, especially when 2 months before that happened, I literally got a letter in the mail thanking me for helping this company bring in a $3 million client. Can you imagine this? And I was expecting a promotion, not expecting to get fired indirectly. Anyway, they didn't fire me, but because of all of the stress, I ended up with pancreatitis. I was hospitalized, and yeah, it was horrible. And this is when I learned, or rather started learning, that not only does loyalty doesn't pay off, but actually working hard and proving yourself doesn't pay off either when it comes to career advancement. As you can imagine, I left that organization, and I remember going into an interview for another consulting company, and the VP was so impressed during the interview that he asked me to wait in the room. And I didn't know what he was doing, but I was literally sitting in the waiting room for 20 minutes, in the meeting room for 20 minutes. He came back and he had an offer printed out in hand. And he said to me, "You have 24 hours to accept this offer." Obviously, I was extremely happy. They gave me another 10K more than I was making. So think about it. I left that first company, made an extra 10K, got to the $70,000 level, got an offer with this company now that the VP basically gave me in hand. That's another extra, 10K. So that brought me to the 80K, mark. So what is the lesson here? Whenever you leave, your salary just keeps jumping up very quickly. So obviously, yeah, I accepted the offer. Now, here's the kicker. I was still in that prove yourself phase, to be quite frank. I didn't learn my lesson. And so, again, I worked hard. I was on this initiative where it was like at a major bank in Canada. I was leading basically this launch of this multi origination platform, not the entire platform, but a component of it. And yeah, I did end up, hitting the $90,000 mark, but I just wasn't happy. The work was getting boring, it was getting repetitive, and I just wanted something different. So I landed this offer with another consulting company and hit the six-figure mark. Now, with that one, what happened was I was on this initiative where we were building a custom Salesforce solution for a company that builds marketing campaigns for organizations like Michael Kors, The Gap, those fancy Fortune 500 companies. And while I was running the project, my boss actually went on vacation. And while he was gone, I stepped into his role. I led the proof of concept. We had an architect that didn't know what he was doing, and I pretty much coached him and had to basically find someone who was technical, keep the whole project together, and build a demo that pretty much won the client. And they ended up signing up with us for the entire implementation, when initially they only signed on for 6 weeks. So here's what happened. Despite successfully saving this project while my boss was on a cruise ship having the time of his life, I got thrown under the bus because of some politics. I became the scapegoat because my boss didn't have an honest conversation with the client around the scope. So I was used as a scapegoat. And I was told that the client didn't like me because my tone was too clinical. Now, that is the most ridiculous type of feedback that you can give someone. It doesn't even make sense. You fire someone because their tone is clinical. What does that even mean? Especially if that person actually saved you and got the client to sign on. So this is where I realized that loyalty isn't what helps you advance your career. Proving yourself through your work doesn't help you advance your career. And I decided that it was time for me to learn how to put myself out there and build a personal brand. So that's what I ended up doing. I built my personal brand. I wrote an article on LinkedIn, really showcasing my thought leadership. And I ended up landing a senior manager level role at the $200,000 level. Me just telling the story just makes me realize how crazy this whole thing is. I went from 40,000 to 50,000 to 70,000 to 80,000 to 90,000 to over 100,000 and then $200,000 just by going at it one jump at a time. And this is what I tell people. You're so scared of leaving your current role. You're scared of leaving the organization. You want to be loyal. You feel bad. But the math just doesn't add up. What are you scared of? Because at the end of the day, like the company is not your family. They will do what's best for them. And if they truly valued you, then they would show you through their actions. Anyway, with that last contract that where I made the $200,000, I was found through LinkedIn just by showcasing my thought leadership. And that's what I tell my clients. It's important to build your personal brand, to share your values instead of hiding behind your resume and all of those things. Now, the big problem was I made the 200,000. Things were good at the beginning. And then my boss, his true colors came out. It was awful. I'm not going to get into a lot of details, but it was awful. It was the kind of awful where you watch the movie The Devil Wears Prada, where she throws her phone because Miranda is constantly calling her. My boss wanted to be around me 24 hours. I was getting text messages at like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. on my personal phone, which is different than getting emails. He wanted me around him all the time. Even when I wanted to go for lunch, he wanted to go with me for lunch. He wanted to meet me all the time. If I'm not, if I'm not in meetings, then he wants to talk to me. And it was just so overwhelming and inappropriate at times. So the lesson that I learned and the stage that I reached at that point, so it went from the loyalty stage to the prove yourself stage to build your personal brand stage to realizing that that is also not enough to build your personal brand and to put yourself out there. Alignment and finding a boss whose values align with yours and an organization culture that aligns with your values is also important. So, yeah, I ended up quitting and I never looked back. And in all transparency, I did not find that right organization culture for me after that. And I ended up building my own business. But I channeled all of these lessons into my clients and I have lived through them because many of them have landed at organizations that they absolutely love because the approach that I take when I help my clients advance their career and either land director level roles, VP level roles, senior individual contributor roles, is very, let's say, holistic because of what I've learned. I had a client recently who landed a director level role, and we made sure that the company culture aligns with his values. I have a client who landed at Amazon and then landed at MongoDB, and he's extremely happy at MongoDB. He is working remotely 100%. He was handpicked, did not know anyone, had no referral. He was handpicked over thousands of applications. It almost felt like he won the lottery because of the work that we did in terms of helping him find a company that aligns with who he is as a professional, not just based on work that he does, but also his personal values. You need to believe in the company that you work for, because if you don't believe in them, you're going to feel discouraged. You're just not going to feel motivated. If a company's direction is the wrong direction, the senior leadership team is making decisions that don't even make sense in terms of the customers that they're targeting, the markets that they're entering, the quality of the product that they're building. If you don't believe in that, you're not going to feel motivated. And it's very difficult to do your best work, right? And then the other aspect is you have to like the people that you're working with. I'm not saying that you have to like every single person at the company, but if you don't like your boss, your life is going to be a nightmare. You need to work with a boss who cares about your career growth. I will tell you that obviously it wasn't all bad in my career. I worked with a boss who really believed in me. And it was actually partly the reason why I got promoted. She advocated for me. She wanted to see me grow, and she didn't even care if I left, because in some sense she didn't care if I left, meaning that if it meant that I was going to be happier, she wasn't going to try to trap me at the organization. She just wanted the best for me as a person. And that's what you want, right? It can't be just, the type of work. It can't just be the title. It can't just be the money. It can't just be, you know, like the type of work that you're doing. It also has to be the people. We are human beings. We're not robots. We have emotions. If you don't enjoy if you don't enjoy working with the people, then you're not going to want to show up to work. The people at the organization that you work with make the work meaningful. I still remember, the good times where I would joke with my coworkers, have dinners, lunches. Okay, so that is the lesson. These are the lessons that I wanted to share. I wanted to share my own story from being in the corporate world. I hope that it helps you as you listen to this. Now, if you are in a situation where you're not happy with your career, you want to grow, you want to advance, okay, I highly recommend that you book a career diagnosis with me, because then we can talk about your specific situation. What's holding you back? What needs to change? Maybe you are in the loyalty stage and you need to wake up. Maybe you are overly fixated on the prove yourself stage. And as you saw in my story, that on its own doesn't pay off. I'm not saying that you shouldn't work hard. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do good work. But on its own, that's not what's going to help you advance your career. And just building your personal brand and overly fixating on your LinkedIn profile and your resume is not going to help you escape the bad cultures and the wrong environments. There needs to be work on your career goals, identifying them, because you need a compass that you need to target. And I I help my clients make these decisions in terms of what they want to target through my career archetype assessment, then yes, we absolutely do all of the things, including build your brand around that and have the right messaging. But the important thing is to also have that, I call it lie detector, that when you're going into interviews, you're paying attention to whether the organization culture is healthy and whether that leader, the hiring manager who's interviewing you, if they will genuinely be someone that you look up to and becomes your sponsor. Navigating all of these pieces, there are just so many of them, can feel overwhelming on your own. And this is where I come in to hold you accountable throughout the entire journey, because it is a transformation that you're going through when you're making a change and when you're leaving to go to another organization. Growth is not just about shuffling things on your resume. Growth is also about who you want to be as a person, as a professional. How do you want to be remembered in your career? What would your professional identity look like? Okay, so if you want to book a career diagnosis with me, then you can use the link on my profile. So I'm going to quickly do a share so that you know where to find this link. If you go onto my LinkedIn profile and you click on the button that says book an appointment, so I'm going to share that here. Let's see, share screen. So as you can see, there is a book an appointment button. Click on that, and that's going to take you to the page where you can book a call with me. So it's quite simple. You can watch this video if you want to see my story. The button is right underneath the video. Click on it, and it's going to take you to this quick intake where you can choose your goals. This will help me understand your situation, and then it takes you to my calendar. All right. If you found this helpful, I would really, really appreciate it if you give this a like. And I'm seeing someone share something here. People will ask, why are you moving organizations so frequently? What's your view on that question? That is a great question. And you know what? If you have a solid response, and listen, I'm not saying you should just bounce around. You need to have a good reason as to why you did that. Sometimes if you moving to one organization to another is actually career growth and recruiters see that, then that is a very valid reason, right? So for me, I just kept adding 10,000 after 10,000 after $10,000 to my salary. Number one. Number two, I was moving up. Every time I moved to one company, from one company to another, I moved up. So it's a valid reason, right? If you're in the same organization, you keep moving up, that's a valid reason for you to stay. And if you're, getting recognition as well. But there's nothing wrong with moving from one company to another if you have a good reason. If there is a recurring theme of, toxic stuff going on, then yeah, that's not going to look good, right? If it's a continuous, lateral move from one company to another, you're not working on new things, you're not learning anything new, and that is a red flag. And to be fair, I do coach my clients on how to respond when someone asks them that question. So for you, like, I would need to understand why you moved so frequently. Obviously, I would need to know the truth, just like a lawyer, right? They want to know like what actually happened, and then they help you reframe it. So hopefully that helps you. Okay, I hope you guys have a great night. If there is a particular topic that you would be interested in learning from me, then please let me know in the comments. That would be very helpful for me as well. And have a great night.